Hello and welcome to my final club race of the year. In case you haven't already guessed it, we're at Laguna Seca again. Now, with this being the last race at Laguna Seca before the runoffs, we had the biggest grid ever. We actually had to tolerate entries, I believe, so the maximum amount of cars you're allowed around this circuit is 56, and we had 56 cars come and join us. So that combined with the fact I was having some issues the day before with tyres meant I had to swap a set to an older set for this race. That incurred me a back of the grid penalty, so I had it all to make up. I didn't want to spoil my perfect record, unbeaten still this year, so I went about going from the back of the grid all the way through to try and beat my classmate and bring home the victory. So what you see here is I'm surrounded by lots of Formula Mazdas. These cars are pretty evenly matched to my car, maybe a second a lap slower, and I'm doing my best to be aggressive but safe in my overtakes at the moment, and getting through as many cars as possible. These guys at the back are a fair bit slower than me, so getting stuck behind them would be a disaster. When you see at the end of the first lap how much distance I would lose from my classmate, it would be huge if I stayed right at the back, so I've just got to get on it immediately. Here I have to take very different lines. For instance, around there in turn 6 I backed off going into it so I wouldn't get caught up in the turn, but right on the exit I could overtake him. And then down to the caution here, just braking really late, nipping up on the inside to get another place. So we're less than 9 turns in, but I've already made 9 passes. You can see on the pass count on the right, so you can keep track of what's going on. So I know these first 2 laps everyone will be bunched up, so the passing or the overtakes will come to me very nicely, but after that the field will spread out. It'll be much harder. There you go, I dip in turn 11. The guy's locking up, so he's obviously trying, but I'm still able to overtake him. So it's 10 passes after 1 lap, so that's about a pass per corner. And then I'm doing my best to make up the field. I need to make about, I think, my classmate was about 25 places in front at the start of the race, so I've got to go make those overtaking positions up. So again, a dive bomb into 2, managed to overtake that guy without too many issues. Approaching the next guy in front of me. Now, as I go through the field, the cars also get faster and faster, so it's going to be more difficult to actually overtake these cars. They'll be running at a similar pace to me. Even so, I'm really quick out of the box. I'm able to get the tyres working earlier on, and I'm able to reel them in. Here you can see the cars are running at a similar pace, and they're also racing each other as well as me. I have to be really careful not to get tangled up in their race. This weekend they seem to be playing bumper cars, to be honest. There's a lot of cars that have retired throughout the race weekend because I don't know what's going on, but I think at the end of the first race there was a car parked at every corner from some sort of contact, so I'm also being really careful there just to avoid any sort of contact. So there we go, another 2 places, and the space are pretty much a straight. I'm reeling in the next guy going down turn 9. There you go, quick one up the inside to turn 11. Now this is actually really good runoffs preparation for me. These guys aren't running a lot slower than me, so I'm getting a good idea of where I can overtake in the race. I think this is something that's going to really give me an advantage when I come and race these other guys. Nobody's really been running this track regularly this year. The only guy who's got a lot of experience hasn't actually run here this year, and at least in Formula Enterprise he hasn't been racing whilst I've been there. And then all the guys coming from the East Coast are going to have no real practice around the circuit, so they won't know where any of the overtaking opportunities will be, where it is suitable, where it's not suitable, and you're asking for trouble. Whereas with all this experience I've got, although I'm not able to get clear laps and chasing the ultimate lap time, I am, however, learning what it's like to drive the track quickly offline, what's feasible for overtaking, what's not, where I can be brave. Like that's a very marginal overtake, but I decided to commit to it. The guy was right next to me, and that turn 6 is a turn you can't run side by side, but knowing that if I'm next to somebody and I've got inside line, I know I can hold that overtaking opportunity. So yeah, coming down the corkscrew, we're overtaking this guy. He's a yellow car. These guys are starting to drive reasonably well, and it's a bit more of an effort to overtake them. So I'm following him for a couple of turns, looking the best place to overtake. So the Formula Mazdas, which is what we're chasing, to run quickly around here, they need to run a lot of wing. Makes the car really inefficient down the straights. It gives them lots of drag, but they're okay in the corners. So that's why you see me find it easier to overtake them with a bit of a slipstream. I'm able to overtake them pretty easily. So we're up to 16 overtakes now. I think it's about 3 laps into the race. You haven't seen the footage interrupt just yet. And the field is really starting to spread out now, so I'm having to put in quick lap times, get a feel for the car and reel the people in. So the tyres I'm running actually ran at Laguna 3 months ago. As you see, a car spun just there. So they are not the best. They're okay, they're fine, they're better than the flat spotted set I had previously, but I am having a few difficulties there. So this is one of my rare mistakes of the weekend. You can see going into the turn, the car got really light, and rather than committing to the turn and keeping the steering wheel lock turned on, I decided to get out of it. It was a conscious decision to run wide. The car felt really bad on entry, and the rear was everywhere. So I thought, rather than risking a spin and going into the left-hand side and possibly hitting the tyres, I was accept my fate, run it off smoothly onto the sand, collect it together, and then pull it back onto the track slowly. So I lost 2 positions, but in the whole scheme of things, I don't have a bent car and I'm able to continue the race. So with that setback, I really have to get my act together now. I need to drive really cleanly and not make any more mistakes, because each 10th really counts now, because I'm not only I've got to be on par with the other guy, but I've got to start reeling him in, and also redo the work that I'd done a lap previous. I feel sorry for these guys who overtook them and left them to their own race again, and I'm going to come back through them and disturb them, which is not very nice. That is kind of my fault, but still, we keep pushing, and I'll do my best to clear these guys quickly. This is a bit of a brave one, a bit of sand there, but committed and overtook him into turn 5. The braking zone there is really short. You brake around the 2 marker and you're off the brakes again by the 1 marker. As you see me being lapped, yep, that happened. A bit sad, but that car's a lot faster. What they were doing this weekend, because of the grid size, they're actually splitting the starts. And they deemed that the Formula Mazdas, which you can see me surrounded by, and also the Formula Enterprise would start in the 2nd grid. For me, that was basically about a 12 or 13 place penalty, because the qualifying session, at least the first one on the Friday, I put the car 14th out of the 56 cars, which put me in the pole for the 2nd split start, but meant I also had to start about place 27. So not only that, they also put a gap of about 2 straights between our split start and the first split start. So that means you're starting, well, at least for this race, I'm starting about half a lap down as it is. So running in traffic, having that mistake, that obviously counts, and those guys having that half a lap head start means that I'm getting lapped super quickly. So that's place number 2. That's Jim Devonport. He'll be running with me in the Bulldog team come run-offs time. So I saw him in my mirrors, and at this point I'm watching my mirrors quite a lot and seeing how I can let these cars through as effectively as possible. You can really lose time by getting out of it too much. Part of that is being really unclear with the overtaking manoeuvres. So you see there into 5, I brake early, so the other guy can brake a bit later and knows that I'm giving him the pass, and immediately I can get back on the power again for turn 5 and not really lose too much time. Even so, I know if I'm getting held up, I can't overtake this car if I'm being overtaken, so it's really important to get by him. So that overtake was from quite a long way back, but committed to it, got on with it, and got through it. So I've got a bit of space now, so that makes it easier to dictate how I'm being overtaken. It's really easy to lose time looking in your mirrors. It's not so bad when you're being lapped, but if you're running wheel to wheel with somebody and you're spending most of your time looking in the mirrors rather than concentrating on your own race, your pace can drop off by a second or so. It's something I kind of learned, at least karting. Karting is a bit more obvious when you're looking behind you because you've got to turn your head, you've got no mirrors. Whenever I was racing competitor back in the day in cars, you could see them always looking behind you. You kind of knew that you had that sign sealed and delivered. You're going to get by them because they were struggling, they were very conscious of you, and the combination of them slowing up a bit with that distraction in concentration and you obviously being a bit quicker than them because you're really in the min meant it was much easier to overtake. So it's definitely a fine balance of being aware of your surroundings, but at the same time focusing on the road ahead. So this car was very awkward to overtake. It was a Formula 1000, but a much more slowly driven one. So he was in the first split start, but running much more slowly than a lot of the cars in the second start. The cars had a lot more potential in the straight line, but around the turns he was struggling a bit. So he was basically going slow around the turns, getting to the straight, opening up the throttle, fast the car could go, and then expect you to get by. And with this thing at least, it made it very hard. So that was I lost a bit of time there. Maybe the three turns I got held up by him. So that wasn't so good. But in come run-off's time, I won't have that problem because there won't be cars quicker than me on the circuit. So these are, I think, the last two of the real big lapping traffic getting by me. I remember looking in my mirrors and seeing that second car coming through and thinking, fine, just let him get by. I want to lose more time in turn 9, letting him through. So let him through and give myself some clear air now. This is the first time I've really had some space to get down to a smooth lap time. I was really hoping at the start of the weekend that I'd get some clear laps and I could work on my ultimate pace, but just with the amount of cars on the circuit, it meant that wasn't possible. Not only that, we were struggling a bit with setup this weekend. The track was running really slowly for the first couple of days, and I'd done some things that were not the best for car setup, which took a little while to correct. So what you have here is, that was optimistic there. Turn 4 is not the easiest place to overtake. I know kind of that's not the case, but if the opportunity arises, I'll take it. Anyway, going back to what I was saying, I did some things with the setup that weren't great for the first couple of days, so we went back and actually went the full extreme the other way, which made the car feel much better, but also went a bit too fast. So the car is very loose today, especially in the high-speed turns. I'm struggling there. You can see turn 6, I'm not able to carry as much speed as I want to. As the safety car comes out, so what you can see in front of me, who you can see in front of me is actually my classmate now. So I have caught back up to him and now fighting for class position. But the safety car has come out. So you can see that was the guy in the Formula 1000 who was very awkward to overtake a few laps ago, had gone off and meant he had to be pulled out of the dirt. There was also a really bad wreck on the other side of the circuit, I think once the safety car was going, and the guy was, I think, a little bit hurt. But anyway, we get back on. This is the restart. The guy in front of me gets a really good restart. I was in the wrong gear and he managed to get himself around that faster Formula B car, which was a fantastic job by him because that meant to have another car to overtake. Anyway, he makes a mistake out of turn 11, and I think the Formula B makes contact with his rear left wheel and actually knocks his front wing off, which kind of comes and attacks my head. Even so, anyway, so I get behind the slipstream. I'm not close enough to send it into turn 2. However, I'm go back into line and try and take the curve as quickly as I can. But what you see there, I think, is he was struggling a bit with getting his tyres warm. So come to pitching the car in, the car snapped sideways and he had to catch it, and by that point he really kind of went to the outside of the turn. You see, I had the same problem. The car also broke sideways with me, but I was a bit more, I guess, conservative with the entry. Got the car slowed down a bit better, so I'm able to just deal with that, keep my momentum, and then just slip up the inside. So there you have it, a racing pass. Now back into the class lead. So this is me continuing my perfect record. What was nice was the safety car didn't really help me out at all, so it was nice to know that I reeled all that back in myself. Because I was reeling in him a couple seconds a lap, and you could see him in the horizon coming towards me. The safety car only gave me a second or two, so I was confident I could do that in a lap or so. So it was great to do a racing restart and have that added element of that extra faster car in there, and just knowing that as I point by another faster car, there you go. didn't lose too much time, just got out of it into braking zone, were able to carry my speed through that turn and get on with it. So yeah, so back to what I was saying, it was great to be doing a racing restart and able to, you know, push the other guy and force him into a mistake. Knowing your own limits and not pushing them too far, knowing that you're still going the fastest around every turn possible and not extending that is, I think it's a great way to do well. Keeping your head and not making mistakes is kind of the number one rule. Is, you know, especially an overtake like that where I know I'm quicker, there's no need to go and lose it and do something silly into that turn. Like, I've got time and patience. What will be hard in runoffs is believing that myself, knowing that these guys who are, you know, could be really, really fast, and seeing these opportunities and still not rushing them and not trying to force yourself into a mistake by maybe trying to take a pass that's not on. So for sure that's going to be a challenge coming into that, is just being cool, calm and collected, being mature about it, and taking my time and just accepting that I'm going to be able to overtake, I'm going to be faster than them. So that's something I'm going to have to learn during that week. It'll be great doing all the practice days and the qualifying sessions just to see where the pace is with everyone. At the moment it's going to be a big unknown. Of all the guys running regularly, I'm a lot faster than everyone else around here. I'm typically about 2 to 2.5 seconds a lap quicker than any of the other Formula Enterprises. And that's kind of been the case in the other circuits, maybe not quite as much. But then again, if you look at the overall lap record pace, I was about there, I'm about 0.4 of a second off that. So what you see here is the guy leading our run group in the Formula Mazda, and it's a guy with a real good head on him, because he sees that, I mean, he knows I'm quicker than him, he knows we're not racing, and he knows he's leading his race, which means a lot to him. So he simply points me by. It's a very easy overtake for me, I thank him for it, and he just loses a tenth or so as he just gets off the gas a bit early. It's great to see somebody kind of watching their mirrors and knowing their surroundings and knowing the most effective way to get somebody by them. With the SCCA that doesn't happen too often, but it is great to see that there are a handful of really, really good drivers there who are doing a really good job. So that was brought me back into lead of the second run group start, and now I'm again getting to get some clear air and putting some quick laps in. So this is one of the few chances of the weekend to really get a feel for the car and the setup changes. You can see they'll go really hot into the corkscrew, actually lock up the rear end of the car. Seems a bit counterintuitive, but it's actually better to lock the rear than the front, because with the engine still turning, you've got a bit more momentum to get the rear wheels spinning again. Whereas the front, once you lock them up, they're really hard to get going again. You typically are just taking that car all the way into the apex with the tyres locked up. And that's what I did the day before with the setup woes I had, and with what the tyres, with what they were doing, I ended up doing that 2 or 3 times and flat spotting them and giving myself tons of vibrations. Yeah, so that's something I've really got to watch out for come run-off time. Not locking the fronts, that causes you huge issues. I did that for my first race weekend at Laguna, and ended up cording a tyre in my second race. So front lockups is definitely something I've got to be real careful of. I do have the ability to change the brake bias of my car, so that means I can alter the force distribution between my front and rear axles. There's a little adjuster. You can't see it here, unfortunately, because the camera I'm running a bit lower today to try and get some better aerodynamics. But anyway, on my right side, I've got a little adjuster knob that can adjust the brake bias, and I'm constantly changing that throughout the race to dial in the car as best as possible. When I lose fuel, I require more brake bias towards the rear, because there's less weight transfer to the front. So it's actually something that changes as the race goes on. So, okay, so I've caught up to this, I think it's a world speed car. This was in the first run group, so he's obviously lost quite a lot of time. Now I go here for the overtake. I think I have my space, but he was quite rude about that, not giving me any room. I was pretty upset by that. He didn't seem to really understand what's going on or be aware of his surroundings, and he's being, I guess, I regard a bit of a hero here. You see, he's kind of pushing the car too hard. He's missing all his apexes. The car's sliding around everywhere. He's losing time for himself. Just pushing too hard. So that, on top of not really being aware of what's going on, is really risky for me. You know, I was inches away from losing a front wing there. I'll probably put the slow-mo up at the end of the video. I was literally inches away from touching him. I'm very sure I held my ground and I had the right to be there, but he was cut me off. You can see he runs wide, 4 wheels off the course, gets back on. What's really impressive is the traction of that world speed Formula car. It's very surprising that he actually kept himself in it and kept the throttle down. I was expecting him to spear all the way across the circuit and put it into the wall on the inside, but kept his foot in and I guess was able to stay in front of me. Now in Europe that wouldn't be allowed. That would be, I guess, it wouldn't be cutting a course, but it would be gaining an advantage by running off the circuit. But over here I guess it's alright, and this is a club race and all that. So whatever, doesn't really matter. At the same time I did get lapped by this Formula Atlantic running us around, so he's put some space between me and him. That's a much faster car, you know, that's 6 or 7 seconds a lap quicker, but he's also really struggling to get by this guy. So when you're getting lapped, you receive blue flags, which basically means you have to yield to the faster cars behind you. And what we're seeing here is I yielded to the faster car behind me, and he's come up on this grey car who's been causing the issues today. This grey car's choosing to ignore him. You can see there the blue car's in fact forced to go to the dirt to try and overtake him, and now he's making a racing pass on the right hand side, which he shouldn't have to do. The grey car should yield to him. Still the blue car's racing, he's not able to slow down the car enough, and he's still stuck behind the guy who's just trying to lap. At this point it's really frustrating for this blue car. He doesn't need to race this guy, he should just be let through. But still that this grey guy obviously thinks he's Michael Schumacher or Sebastian Vettel and is willing to race till the end. Anyway, even so, this is the last lap. We're about to take the checkered flag. It's my 10th victory out of 10, and look forward to going to the runoffs in a couple of weeks' time, where I get to go and fight for the national championship.